hey, how's it going? Just messing around here, but happy holidays, everybody. Hope you guys had a good time with all of your families and stayed safe out there. On this week's episode, we are continuing on the bug, trying to get as far as we can. Unfortunately, I didn't get to where I wanted this week with the bug, but ended up spending time with family and had a awesome day. So let's hop right into it. First, I wanted to say thank you to all of you guys that support me and help me out. It kind of helps me push to get this car further along. So thank you guys for the support. So let's hop right into the video. Hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so the parts are starting to roll in. Got this box this morning. I got both of my race axles. These are 17 and 5/8, 28 spline for the Porsche CVs. So these are spool axles. They're designed kind of for sand cars. That way when they're put under tremendous load, they actually twist. So this will help the gearbox, help the CVs. Super nice, thick, heavy axles. They're a lot thicker than I expected them to be. But got both of those, got the clips for them. The CVs are in the mail. The only thing that I'll have to do is get a measurement on the CV bolts and order those. I'm still trying to decide on what I want to do with what style head I want to do with those bolts, but I am going to end up safety wiring them just because I've always in the past had problems with the CV joint bolts backing out. So get all those tight with Loctite and safety wire them. I need to order the safety wire pliers. That way I can do all of that. There's a couple other things that I'm going to safety wire in the car as well, just to hold it where it needs to be. Make sure nothing backs out and messes anything up. Well, I had a little bit of time today, so I went ahead and mounted the turbo. So you can see back here, it's kind of a rotated setup like a standard Subaru, but it's a little bit different. So that sits right there. What I have done was basically just move the wastegate. So the wastegate, and then added a little tiny piece onto the up pipe for the turbo. So I got that all welded up. Worked out really good. Really like the way that this is set up. So the exhaust side is going to come down through this bar here, come across and then out. The wastegate will come underneath that one, up and then out right here. So it'll go through this hole here. So I still have quite a bit of work to do on the passenger side. I got to cut this stuff out, get rid of it, because that was a way before thought on everything. Still have to do a bunch of body work here, make the carbon panels, stuff like that. So don't mind any of this hack job right here. So it's all going to get changed. It's all basically going to get cut out and made in carbon anyway. So wastegate's coming through this hole, and I have the intercooler in here. This whole setup is temporary, the entire turbo system. What I'm going to end up doing is I'll run this for a little while, just to have something. So intercooler piping is going to come out, loop around the coilover, and then back through here and up to the intercooler. So it's kind of a funky setup for now. Eventually I'm going to switch over to a water to air intercooled system. which will just make life a whole lot easier. Put another heat exchanger up front, put a water to air intercooler back here somewhere, probably next to the starter, and it'll just make piping way simpler, clean everything up, make it look way better back here, because right now with the intercooler, the way that it's set up, if I take my car to a show or anything, the only thing that you're going to see is an intercooler back here. So this will just be temporary, and we'll be swapping it over in the very near future. So I just want to get the car going. So I'm going to tack up the suspension, get everything all situated where it needs to be here, and then I'll make a couple intercooler pipes that tag that to the intercooler. I'll move over to the other side and do the same on the other side. Make some temporary brackets for the intercooler to sit on top of the transmission. I'll order 2 10-inch fans to put on the intercooler, just so then it gets some airflow. And then I'll just keep an eye on the intake temperatures. So I'm also going to order a 4-inch piece of pipe, piece of an aluminum pipe, to bring the air filter down into this pocket here. That way, as I'm driving, the air will catch this scoop and put it directly into the turbo. That way, this has fresh air. It's not sucking in hot air from the entire engine bay. So I got to order that and order a couple other bits. We'll get that stuff set up, and we'll temporarily set up a turbo system. For now, I'm probably just going to run a dump off of the turbo and just point it down towards the ground. Later on, I will build a stainless steel up pipe, stainless exhaust system, stainless screamer pipe for the wastegate, and we'll get all of that stuff done later down the road. So for now, let's do a temporary setup so then we can get this thing on the road. Okay, so I fitted up a couple pipes. Just remember that this is all temporary, just to get the car going. I have a full kit of intercooler piping and stuff like that, so I just used what I had scrap-wise. So you can see it goes around the coil over there, loops around. There's a coupler there. Goes into the intercooler, and then comes back around, goes around that coil over, and then loops up, and the blow-off valve is right down there, and then it goes into the intake. So not a perfect situation, but it will work for now. It actually isn't too bad. It doesn't look too bad, other than a couple couplings that didn't really necessarily want to put in there. Also have my intake temperature sensor right here. So it looks not too shabby. It actually looks pretty darn clean if you look at it, but just temporary. So this will work for now. I'll put some clamps on it and let's finish up the rest of the car so then we can drive this thing. Well, I wanted to kind of explain what I do to make all of my tabs and stuff. So this one was a template of basically one of the coilover mounts. You can see on there I wrote 4 more, so I needed 4 more of these. So basically I have 3/8 steel here. So what I do is I go ahead and I line it up on the edge. A little bit of a rough edge, it's fine, it all gets ground down. And then I take my hole saw, mark out where my hole saw goes, and then I will pilot drill bit that and then drill it with the actual pilot bit for the hole saw. And then I'll hole saw this out. And then what I do is I actually take a pair of vice grips and clamp it down right here. And then I'll take the grinder and cut exactly right next to this one. And then across the top to get it exactly the same as this one. And then I go ahead and take a flap disc and flap disc the edges to get it perfectly aligned with this one. That way they exactly mirror like this one here. I'll probably put it up here so then you guys can see. That way they exactly mirror the next piece. And then what I'll actually do is I will clamp these two together exactly where they need to go. I drill a pilot bit into the center of this hole that mounts to the coilover. And then I will use a step bit, which I have in here. So I'll use a step bit and step it up. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to center this hole exactly where the next one is. And then I will unclamp it, send the pilot bit or the step bit down to what size hole I need. And that'll give me a nice clean edge. And then I'll flip it over and I'll do the same. That way it just lightly etches the top of it. And it will clean up the edge of the actual bolt. So you can see here that it's a nice clean hole on both sides. Okay, here's my template and all 4 of the tabs plus the template. So they all are completely identical. So these will be for the front coilovers. That'll be a reference tab for later down the line if I need something that's relatively close to this. I can still use this, and then what I end up doing is taking some construction paper and blue painter's tape, and I will add a piece of construction paper to where I need it. If I need it longer or shorter or wider or anything like that. So I'll use this as a reference for other tabs in the car if I need them. But these ones are for the coilovers. They'll go up front. You can kind of see that they're offset just a little bit. The hole is offset to one side. That is because they're going to shift down like that, and that actually lowers the coilover further onto the A-arm, which gives me the correct spacing for the coilover to sit in the body without interfering with anything. So all these are angled correctly. So we'll get those tack welded in and get the coilover set up. And then we should be pretty close to dropping the car down. Well, Christmas came a day early for me. So this is basically all of the parts to finish up the rear. I went ahead and ordered a rear disc brake kit. So came with the brackets, came with calipers, came with rotors, the rotor spacer kit, seal kit, and brand new hardware. Also got bearing seals, all brand new bearings for the hubs and the back. Went ahead and got the CV joints. So these are Porsche 930 CV joints. Nice and brand new, big, huge, beefy, massive ones. Got the axle boots. It comes with the grease and the boots and the adapters to adapt the boots to the actual CVs. And then got some chromoly stubs. So these convert, that is a Type 1 Volkswagen spline, and that is the Porsche 930 CV. Also got some chromoly axle nuts for it as well. The only thing that didn't show up on this order that is on back order is I got billet end plates for the axle housing and the axle spacer kit. So in between the bearings in the rear hub, there's a couple spacers in there. So both of those were on back order, but should be getting them here shortly, hopefully. But other than that, I can basically finish up the entire rear end, get it all put together. Because right now, I just have a stock drum on here, just to kind of get wheel fitment. So I believe that the rear disc brakes actually bring it out a touch. So the car might be a little bit wider than what I was originally expecting, especially since the axle length is a little bit longer than I was expecting. So all of this stuff might come out further, which would space the rear wheel out further, which is completely fine. That just means that I have to build bigger flares. Well, I went ahead and slapped the axles together. I still have to pump them full of the grease, but threw them together. That way I can measure the length of the bolts that I need to go through all of these. I'm probably going to run to Ace at some point and just get probably 8 bolts just to run through here. The bolts that I need to order are on back order, so I'm going to at least get a couple bolts in these to hold them into place and check around and see if I can find other bolts for them. So I'll pump them full of grease, go get those bolts, bolt them together, slide them into the car, make sure everything's going to line up and fit, make sure I don't have any clearance issues. I did set one of the brake rotors on the car. Actually, I'll go ahead and show you. So went ahead and set one of the brake rotors on the car and then set a wheel on here. You can see back here, right here. So my bracket is actually interfering with the rotor, so I have to modify it. That's why I haven't finished off these rear spindles yet, just for the fact of clearance issues. I want to make sure that everything's good before I did that. I also wanted to make sure that the height was okay on that. And where the caliper sits, it's going to interfere with the tow rod. So I'm going to have to move that and adjust that. Adjust these brackets to make sure that they fit everywhere they need to. Make sure the rotor pushes back to where it needs to be. But other than that, that's basically where the wheel's going to sit, and it is insane. So we're going to keep pushing along on getting the suspension where it needs to be and try and get this thing on all four wheels by Sunday. So start jamming. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you this week. We were very close to getting the car down on the ground, but I still have to make tabs for the upper A-arms in the front and do a little bit of stuff in the rear. But other than that, we're getting very, very close. Suspension will be done by next video. I'm going to try everything that I can to try and get that. I know that I said that last week, but this week was pretty hectic. So next week, this car will sit on all four tires and potentially be able to roll it around, which will be awesome. So after this, I think the body will come off. I will finish weld basically everything and start sanding everything down, get it all in primer, and then we can put it back together as far as we can, and then we will try and drive this thing. So not too much longer. The flare video, sorry guys, it's coming. I want to get the car running first. I want to make sure that I don't have to change the suspension in order to get the flares correctly on fronts and rears. Somebody had mentioned that the front tire looks like it's pretty close to the flare. Still fine-tuning and adjusting all of that stuff. So if I have to move the front flare, it's not too big of a deal. Actually, I might been considering raising up the fender in the front another 1/2 inch to 1 inch just to get a little bit more wheel clearance. I am gonna have to modify the back just to get the right height that I want, but we will get to that when we get to it. So until the next video, peace out, guys.